Rich in Atlanta.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you guys today?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm great. So, I think it's a little bit of divine intervention that I called on my particular topic.
Doubt it.
Because at first I didn't think it correlated, but now that I hear what you guys are discussing, I think it falls right in line. And that is, I think that religion is good for society.
We don't.
Okay, go ahead.
And don't you have your own version of it?
No. Well, I mean,
So
it depends
what are
on
you doing today?
it depends on what you mean by religion exactly.
Well, I know that, in my particular church, the idea of having just a social group is kind of, it does permeate. And
Okay, I agree that social groups are good for society, so we're together so far.
Okay. Do you think that your social group, being an anti-God related social group, is good for society?
Sure.
Atheists don't believe in God, so we're skeptics. If you
I understand.
If you have some evidence for it, we'd love to hear it. If not, I can point at I can point at like thousands of failures.
I guess my evidence is purely the history of the religion, in particular my society. I can't say across the board because I'm not in agreement with all religions. For instance, the Incan religion and the Mayan religion probably wasn't so good for society.
So you don't think that religion? So you don't think religion in general is good for society, just mainly Christianity?
Or what religion do you think is good for society? How about that?
I think there are several that are good for society. I'm not here to debate Christianity because I think I'm willing to pass the card to you guys. I think you're probably more biblically knowledgeable than I am. But I think in my particular society, which is Christian, obviously I'm calling from Atlanta, we are in the Bible Belt, let's be honest. And in my society, I think that the religion, and even in your opinion, the indoctrination, is good for the general public. Okay,
don't agree.
And why not?
Religion is largely based on faith, and that's not a good reason to build anything. That's not something that you'd built anything on. That's a good reason to be wrong, right?
Right. I think there are a number of notably negative influences that religion has on society. I mean, and I'm not saying that religion functioning as a social club is necessarily bad, because we agree that social clubs are good things for people's mental well-being. But we're going to part company when it comes to believing stuff without evidence and passing on that belief through widespread groups, because in a lot of cases it leads to opposition to science, it undermines education, and it tends to sort of create in-groups and out-groups that can wind up persecuting minority members of the community. So I'm not on board with that stuff.
And I've got a lot longer list too.
21 episodes of them.
Yeah. Go ahead.
In my particular circle, I tend to circle with intellectuals. First of all, I'd like to preface this by saying I'm a huge fan of your show.
Thanks.
A lot of theists that I know are huge fans of your show.
Okay.
Some do consider it giving them ammo in debate. However, for me, I just like to test what I believe, and I applaud you guys for having the show. I'm an avid listener. Kudos for me.
Well, that's awesome.
I mean, I think that's admirable.
But what I would like to say is that I believe that human beings are more than just meat sacks. In other words, we have a spiritual side to ourselves.
I don't know what spiritual means.
You don't. You don't have anything beyond what you can touch or feel, like emotions even?
I have emotions. What does that have to do with being spirit?
Pardon me?
Well, I have emotions. What has that got to do with a spirit?
It's just something beyond yourself. It's another element to being a human being that's just beyond this, current understanding, this current dimension. It's something. I mean, I'm
pretty sure I have all the standard properties of being human, including the stuff that you're talking about. But I don't think that it has anything to do with anything supernatural. So I don't describe it as spirit-based.
Do you think that we are simply highly evolved animals?
Yes.
Yes.
So do you think our spiritual side is any different than an animal's spiritual side?
I don't know what a spiritual side is.
It's such a muddy, convoluted, messy term that it's become meaningless. So if you have a definition, then we can talk about that definition. That's what we're kind of fishing for.
Okay, I don't know if I can come up with a 1 or 2 sentence definition, but what I will say is that based on my own experience, we are vastly different than animals.
I will agree with
art,
that.
Music, we worship a creator for the most part.
Well, we don't.
So
if that's your standard for being different from animals, then I guess I'm not. Yeah, culture is cool.
And that's what I'm saying is that religion is a part of the culture, and it's important. It's an important part. It's the spiritual part.
Important to a lot of folks, yes.
Yeah, well, mythology is an important part of culture also. Wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, stuff like the Iliad and the Odyssey, believing in Zeus, and, a lot of religions which are clearly not true, and you and I would both agree, are culturally significant and worth knowing about. But that doesn't mean that we should accept them as true and create and make our clubs specifically dedicated to propping up these beliefs that aren't correct. And you'd agree with that.
Your opinion is that we should make our club purposefully propping up the fact that everyone's an idiot, basically.
No.
Is what, because there are religions all over the planet.
Right. And you and I agree,
and they all can't
you and
be
I
right,
agree
right?
that most of them are wrong.
Right, yeah.
So you don't think they're all idiots?
Everyone else is morons, and you guys are all just doing it wrong.
No, you're saying
we're open to evidence.
Right.
So
now another thing is, in my personal experience, I'm one of the statistics of 80% that left the church. I'm from Atlanta. I was raised in the church Baptist, and in my college years became very intellectual. And I've always been just a thinker and a questioner. But it was when I had children that it became very important from a social and a societal.
The free daycare? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about indoctrination, which is exactly what you guys are talking about.
So did the information that you had about the existence of a God change when you had a kid?
No, the information, it's not just information, it's a spiritual connection that I felt that I was exposed to as a child, which I have great admiration for my religion for giving to me, because it allowed me to experience other dimensions of myself, namely the spiritual dimension. And I'm happy for that. I'm so thankful for that. And then when I had children, I want to give them the same abilities to explore that spiritual side of themselves.
Okay, I have a child, and
society,
so my son doesn't. So my son doesn't go to church or anything.
Okay.
What's he missing, or what am I missing?
From a community standpoint, a lot, I think, but that
He's
depends
got
on
a
your
community.
That depends on your community. If you live in my
well, wait a minute.
community,
You said at the beginning that you think the Atheist Community of Austin is a religion, right?
I think you're building a social network.
Okay, so do you think that in a completely secular context, without bringing up any of this spirit stuff, I can still provide him with the same useful community that you don't? Okay.
No.
All right.
You want me to cite a specific reason?
Sure.
Godless bitches.
Yeah.
Does your son know about that?
Yep.
I mean, I have 2 daughters, so I would never, I cannot allow my daughters to listen to your show because...
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. He can.
I mean,
I'm sorry you keep your kids in the dark so much.
Yeah, that's an example of indoctrinating your kid.
Exactly. I don't want my kids using filthy language.
So you're not bringing more to them. You're actually shielding them from more stuff.
Correct.
You're hiding them from the world. So this spiritual thing that you're talking about is actually covering up a certain part of the world and keeping them from knowing about it.
Oh, definitely. I want to cover up sin. I don't want them to know about it. Okay.
Wow. I don't agree with your parenting
approach.
approach.
Do you show your son pornography? I mean...
Not,
you say, hey, it's out
not
there,
at the
go ahead and
current
look at it.
time, but I expect he will start at some point, and that won't bother me.
It won't?
Nope.
See, to me, that
Pornography is
goes back to the
all
religion.
American, dude.
That goes back to the religion, and I think certain of the laws and the rules are put there for your own good. You know, I mean, I think pornography
Okay.
leads to sex trafficking, and you were talking about using
I
women.
disagree.
And
How about,
Okay.
how about God's command?
pornography? You don't think the pornography industry uses people? Then you are in the dark, my
Well,
friend.
it does.
To an extent,
At least they
yes.
get paid, but you know,
But I'm
maybe
saying
maybe
that,
they're
they get
consenting.
paid. Yeah, okay.
So,
Okay.
you know, your God commands to kill witches. Is that a good thing?
I don't
do
like
you-
the use of my God versus your God, and I'm not here to defend any particular.
don't
I'm
have
not
a
an
God.
Okay, the
apologist
God of the
for-
Bible, which you've advocated, right?
Like I just said, I'm just kind of going with the flow as far as my community is, and I think religion has is a good part of the community.
Right, but let's not pretend that the religion is adding something extra, because by everything you've said, the function of religion in a child's life is to subtract stuff, and
No,
that's
it's to
very
add to that
different
spiritual
from.
dimension. It's to add to that spiritual dimension.
And
Yes,
again,
the
I don't
subtracting-
think that
so
is
you're
a
telling
thing.
me you have no rules for your son.
No, I'm
rules.
not claiming that.
So you subtract, obviously, things that could hurt him
Sure, to an extent.
from his experience. You're
Right.
not letting him play with knives, and I mean, I don't know how old your son
That's
is. My
true,
son
and
was a
I'm
teenager.
doing that without bringing spirit into it. So again,
But there are other
by
dimensions
providing
to the
reasons.
human experience. Like, okay, obviously physical, knives equal physical. Porno equals mental. You know, I
Okay.
mean, there is a physical act of looking at the picture, but it's more about keeping someone's inner self pure in a way that they can be honorable as a person and not contribute to, evil.
I
So-
don't.
I'm
I don't
not
see that there's
teaching.
a, I don't
I'm
see
not
that religion
teaching
has any
my
role
son.
in that. Personally.
I'm not teaching my son that sex is evil.
No, I'm not teaching my kids that sex is evil, but porno is definitely evil. It leads to some
Disagree.
very evil things in society. I don't think it's, it has a really good place in society.
It
I
does.
mean-
Wait, it does or it doesn't have a good
It
place?
does not have a
It
good
doesn't.
place in society.
Okay, I don't agree.
Killing
But do you
witches.
agree that it leads
Did
to
killing
sex
witches have a
trafficking?
good place in society?
Pardon?
Did killing witches have a good place in society?
I'm not a part of a religion that kills witches.
Yeah,
Yeah, you are.
No, but I've never seen a witch killed.
But
Okay.
your
And if
but
I
your
saw a
holy
witch
book.
killed, I would walk away and say, I don't want to be a part of that religion.
Okay,
But
but
that-
do
as
you
far as my
agree
own
that the Bible
experience, no.
says you should kill witches?
Well, I mean, I know people that are involved in Wicca, for instance.
Yeah, but the
And I
Bible
guess those
says
people
that,
would be
right?
Considered witches. So, but I don't go around killing anyone. My Bible says don't kill. It's one of the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, but
your
what
Bi-
does
your
it
Bible
say
has mixed
about
messages then.
witches?
What does that say about your God? If it's got
Do you know the
If you
verse
try
we're
to
talking
wedge
about?
anything about the Bible, and I told
Do
you,
you
I'm
know
not
the
trying to
verse we're
defend
talking
Christianity.
about?
I'm trying to say that religion has a place in society that is positive.
Okay,
I'm not talking about Christianity here.
but not the Bible.
I mean, I didn't even bring up the Bible. I said religion has
Okay.
a particular place in society.
Do you
I
think that
is
the
positive.
Bible is? Do you think that the Bible legitimately outlines what Christianity is?
In my society, religion has played a very positive role, and no witches have been killed.
Okay.
Okay.
But you don't
Okay.
agree with Exodus 22:18.
You have, like I said before, you have more biblical knowledge than I do.
Okay,
You can
but-
quote it and tell me what it says. I
It
don't
says-
know what Exodus 22 is.
Exodus 22:18 says, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." You would reject that, right?
I haven't read it in context.
Okay.
The context is this is a command from God. Okay,
Here's
that's
the
the
deal.
context.
When even my own preacher brings to me a verse, a particular verse, I don't really. That's not. I'll need to do biblical study around that verse and
Okay.
see what it means.
So,
Check
so
out
your
Exodus
morality
22.
is
It's
better
a-
than your God's, right?
Pardon?
Your morality is better than your God's. Because you would
Okay.
ignore a direct command from your God and do what's right.
Well, here's what I don't like: the whole "your God, your deal." You're taking it back to a particular religion. I'm just saying spirituality is a part of the human experience, and I think that religion has done a great part throughout the history as far as allowing people to express this side of
Well,
themselves. And you want to say my God, this God, that God. I'm talking about God, not the God or a God. I'm talking about just God, religion, this, spirituality, the side of humanity that you have to admit exists.
Did you know that religious belief in societies are correlated with lower life expectancy, higher STDs, higher teen pregnancies, higher teen suicides?
You can send me your statistics, but statistics can be skewed in either way.
This is a correlation.
I've heard statistics that, contrary to that, especially the STD part, I would say that societies that don't adopt a good religion or a religion, it's like the Judaic law and stuff. It was there basically to keep people healthy.
This is something that you're objectively mistaken about. For instance, there have been a lot of studies that show that in areas like Atlanta, Georgia, which support, and to be fair, Texas, which support abstinence-only education, teen pregnancy goes up and STDs go up.
So you think multiple sexual partners equals lower STDs and lower...
sex education equals lower...
Yeah, I think comprehensive sex education and intelligently using birth control and disease control does lower that stuff.
I agree with you on that.
Okay, so we're agreed on that.
We have to define what sex education is also. But I do agree.
The ambient religion here in the U.S. promotes these things.
Of sex education, birth control, all that stuff, and I've remained STD free.
Okay.
I hope you've taught your kids that. I hope you've taught your kids, or will teach your kids that when they're old enough, despite what your church thinks.
So it seems to me you're not advocating for a particular religion.
Correct.
Yeah, because once it becomes concrete and shows its failures, then you want to wash your hands of it. Which is a bit dishonest, I think.
It's that I want to acknowledge that mankind has a spiritual side, and we need a social network in order to express that.
We definitely are social animals. I'm with you there. The spiritual thing, I just don't get. Right?
Well, now what I don't get is why
spirit used to mean breath. It used to mean breathing.
Pardon?
So I'm breathing, therefore I have a spirit.
Hey, if the Humanitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta had a massive influence in my particular area, I might be open to it. But what I'm saying is, your organization is failing in a couple of areas, and that is you cannot gain popularity by using profanity, by not making it family friendly, and not doing anything but except arguing all the time.
One of my favorite quotes is, "The color of truth is gray," and the meaning of that is, you don't have to put lipstick on the truth. You don't have to dress it up and make it look good.
Exactly.
And if people aren't flocking to the truth because it's gray, that's their loss.
Well, you've just basically shined a huge light on what I'm saying, and that is, if you look around, you're going to see people flocking, especially in my area, to Jesus. And that, to me, isn't terrible.
Well, in the meantime, the reality is that in the last 5 years, the religiously unaffiliated has grown by a fairly significant amount. People are leaving religion in droves, and I don't necessarily know that they're turning to atheism, although a number of them are turning to atheism. The atheist movement is small, but it's increasing in popularity, so I think you're mistaken that speaking out about it can't make it more popular.
Okay, I see what you're saying as far as speaking out, but what I'm saying is it's unattractive, and most people are like, going to say, well, I have a spiritual side, and I want to express that.
Well, no, we're not based on charisma and false promises and these sorts of things that might appeal to some people. That's correct. We're atheism is not based on charisma. It's not based on false promises about an afterlife. It's not based on lies and manipulation and these sorts of things. So yeah, it's kind of bland in that respect.
Now, one of the things when you talk about lies and manipulation, which I thought was really funny, and this is just a comic interlude, but the other day, Matt was on the show. Maybe it was the other day. Maybe I was listening to an archived episode, but he said, if you have children in the room, shield their ears or make them leave, and then he started talking about Santa Claus. And I thought that was ridiculous because if you guys teach your children about Santa Claus,
he was probably joking.
Actually,
he was probably joking. Okay.
I think,
don't take it too literally.
I think as a parent who didn't teach my kid about Santa Claus, my main concern would be other parents have the right to fool their kids for a while, and and we don't believe in usurping their parental authority.
But when he uses foul language, he doesn't say make sure your kids are out of the room. He just blatantly uses it.
Don't care.
So, really, you want your kids talking like that?
No, I tell my son what's appropriate in polite company, and he's in trouble if he uses words in the wrong context.
Wow.
And that's something you got to learn, you know.
I have to just mill that over because that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, my thing is just don't use foul language. Just why not just blanket it? You know.
Well, you notice we haven't used any with you because we're sensitive to your.
I was really hoping that I'd get Matt. And that he would use my name over and over and call me out.
I'm sorry, we're the nice ones.
You're welcome to call back.
Use the foul
right, yeah, Matt will be on next week. He can curse up a storm at you.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, do you guys have anything else for me? Because it's been a really enjoyable talk. Like I said,
I've enjoyed it too. And feel free to call back, Rich. But we're gonna move on to another caller now.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for your call.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.